The coffee cup fell onto the marble floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces. Adrian Whitmore, CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the world, stood frozen at the kitchen door. It wasn't the noise that paralyzed him. It was the muffled sound of sobs coming from the maid's room at the end of the service corridor. It was 6 o'clock on a Monday morning. Adrian had just returned from a business trip to Dubai. His 3-story mansion in one of the city's most exclusive neighborhoods was as silent as ever. Silent and empty. Just him and Lorena, his housekeeper for the past 3 years. Lorena never cried. In the 1,095 days she had worked there, she maintained an almost robotic professionalism. She would wake up at 5, prepare the coffee, organize the house, take care of the clothes, and by 7 in the evening retreat to her room with her young daughter. Few words. No drama. No tears. Adrian walked slowly down the corridor. His hand hesitated before knocking on the light wooden door. The crying stopped immediately. "Lorena? Are you okay?" Silence. "Lorena, I need to know if you're okay." The door opened just a crack. Lorena's brown eyes were swollen, red. Her dark skin shone with recent tears. She held little Isabella in her arms, a baby of only 5 months who slept peacefully, unaware of her mother's despair. "I'm sorry, Mr. Whitmore. I didn't mean to bother you. I'll prepare your coffee right away." "Forget the coffee." Adrian frowned. "What's happening?" Lorena shook her head, trying to close the door. But something in his gaze stopped her. Perhaps it was genuine concern. Or maybe it was complete exhaustion that made her unable to lie one more time. I'm fine. Just a hard day." "Lorena." Adrian placed his hand on the door, preventing her from closing it. "I've worked with data analysis for 20 years. I know how to recognize patterns. You haven't been eating properly for weeks. You've lost weight. You have deep dark circles under your eyes. And now you're crying at 6 in the morning. This isn't a hard day. It's a crisis." Lorena's lips trembled. She looked at her daughter in her arms and new tears streamed down her face. "I didn't want to involve you in this, sir. It's not fair. You already do so much for me." "Involve me." The words came out firmly. Adrian surprised himself with the determination in his voice. He wasn't this kind of person. After his devastating divorce 2 years ago, he had built emotional walls around himself. Work. Money. Success. These were his priorities. He didn't get involved in other people's problems. He didn't care about personal dramas. But something about that silent crying broke through his defenses. Lorena took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was a fragile thread about to snap. "I'm going to have to give Isabella up for adoption." The world seemed to stop. Adrian felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. He looked at the baby sleeping peacefully, with her black curls and chubby cheeks. "What did you say?" "There's a family. Good people. They have money, their own house, can give her everything she needs." Lorena pressed her daughter to her chest as if trying to imprint her in memory. "I can't anymore. I just can't." Adrian entered the small room without asking permission. It was Spartan. A single bed, an improvised crib made from drawers, some clothes hanging. On the small table beside, he saw piles of overdue bills. Electricity bill. Water. Rent for a property he didn't know about. Medical prescriptions. Expensive medication. Explain everything. From the beginning. Lorena sat on the bed, rocking Isabella. Her voice came out broken, loaded with shame and pain. "My mother is very sick. Lung cancer, advanced stage. She lives in a rented house on the other side of the city. She needs medicines that cost more than I earn in 2 months. Isabella's father left me when he found out I was pregnant. Disappeared. Moved to another city. I pay my mother's rent, the medicines, diapers, special milk because Isabella has reflux." She paused, swallowing her sobs. "My salary doesn't cover even half. I'm 3 months behind on rent. The landlady threatened to evict my mother. I don't sleep anymore. I don't eat. I just work and cry. And Isabella deserves more. She deserves a real life. A mother who isn't breaking inside." Adrian felt a rage grow inside him. Not at Lorena. At the world. At the brutal injustice of a woman having to choose between her mother and her daughter. Between love and survival. And this adoptive family? I met them through a social worker. They're waiting for my answer by Friday. In 3 days. Lorena kissed Isabella's forehead. If I don't give her up, they'll choose another child. And I'll lose the only chance to give my daughter a dignified future. The silence that followed was dense, suffocating. Adrian looked at that broken woman, at that innocent baby, and something inside him shattered. He thought about his own life. 42 years old. Billions in the bank. An empty mansion. A destroyed marriage because his ex-wife never wanted children. Years of therapy trying to fill the void of never being a father. And here, right under his nose, a child was about to be taken from her mother's arms purely because of lack of money. No, the word came out firm, definitive. Lorena looked up, confused. Sir. It's not going to happen. You're not giving your daughter to anyone. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Leave in the comments what you thought and which city or country you're watching from. Your participation is very important. Adrian left the room before Lorena could respond, his mind already working in overdrive, calculating, planning. He didn't yet know how he would solve this. But he knew he wouldn't allow this injustice to happen. Not while he had the power to stop it. Adrian locked himself in the office for 2 hours. His secretary called 3 times asking about important meetings. He turned off his phone. Nothing mattered at that moment except the numbers in front of him. He opened his personal financial system and began to calculate. Rent for Lorena's mother's house, $2,400 per month. Cancer treatment medications, $5,000 monthly. Isabella's basic expenses, $1,800. Total, $9,200 reais per month. For him, the equivalent of a restaurant bill. But as he typed in the values, a familiar voice echoed in his head. The voice of Camila, his ex-wife. You always want to save everyone, Adrian. But you can't even save yourself. She had said that during their last argument, before signing the divorce papers. At the time, he didn't understand. Now sitting there, staring at numbers that represented the life of a woman and a child, he was beginning to understand. There was something broken inside him. A void that not all the money in the world could fill. He thought about simply transferring the money to Lorena's account. Solving the problem with a check. But that wouldn't change anything. In 6 months, she would be in the same situation. The system would continue crushing people like her. And he would return to living his empty life, having put a bandage on a deep wound. No. It had to be different. Adrian went downstairs and found Lorena in the kitchen, preparing the breakfast he had dismissed hours earlier. Her movements were mechanical, automatic. Isabella slept in the improvised stroller beside the stove. I need to meet your mother. Today. Lorena turned around, surprised. Mr. Whitmore, it's not necessary. I shouldn't have said anything. I'll solve my problems on my own. Lorena, look at me. Adrian stepped closer. Do you trust me? She hesitated. In those 3 years working for him, Adrian had always been fair, respectful, distant. He paid on time, never disrespected her, never crossed boundaries. But trust was different. Trust required vulnerability. I don't know what you want to do. I don't know yet either. He was honest. But I know you're not giving your daughter away. Not while I can stop it. Now take me to your mother. The car ride was silent. Adrian drove his imported sedan through streets that grew progressively more deteriorated. Mansions gave way to simple houses. Simple houses gave way to shacks. The contrast was brutal. When they arrived, Adrian understood the scale of the tragedy. The house was tiny, with damp stains on the walls and broken roof tiles. The gate was rusted. On the door, an eviction notice taped in place. Owner, Amanda Ferreira, read the official document. Lorena picked Isabella up and went inside. Adrian followed her. Inside, the smell of dampness mixed with medicine. A woman around 60 years old was lying on an old sofa, covered with worn blankets. She was far too thin, with grayish skin and sunken eyes. But when she saw her granddaughter, her face lit up. My little Isabella. Her voice was hoarse, worn by illness. Mom, this is Mr. Whitmore. My employer. The woman tried to sit up, but Adrian gestured for her to stay where she was. No need to get up, ma'am. Clarice. You can call me Clarice. Adrian sat on a plastic chair. He observed the surroundings, medicine scattered across the small table, stacks of medical prescriptions, overdue electricity and water bills stuck to the old refrigerator with magnets. Clarice, your daughter told me about your situation. And about the decision she's being forced to make. Tears welled up in the older woman's eyes. I told her not to do it. I said we'd find a way. But she's right. Clarice's voice broke. I'm dead weight. I'm killing my daughter and my granddaughter just by being alive. Mom, don't say that. Lorena knelt beside the sofa, still holding Isabella. It's the truth. My medicines cost a fortune. This treatment is only keeping me alive for a few more months, at most. And meanwhile, you're killing yourself working, and my granddaughter will be raised by strangers. Adrian felt a lump in his throat. This wasn't just poverty. It was a perverse system that forced people to choose who lives and who dies based on how much money they have. How much time do the doctors give you? He asked gently. 4 to 6 months. If I continue the treatment. Clarice coughed, and the sound was painful to hear. If I stop, maybe 2. But at least my daughter could keep the baby. You're suggesting you stop treatment to die faster? Adrian couldn't hide the shock in his voice. I'm saying it's not worth prolonging my agony if it means destroying my granddaughter's future. The silence that followed was unbearable. Isabella began to cry, as if she felt the emotional weight of the moment. Lorena rocked her daughter, her own tears falling onto the baby's little head. Adrian stood up and went to the window. He looked at the potholed street, at the houses falling apart, at the barefoot children playing among the trash. He thought of his empty mansion, his imported cars, his bank accounts growing while he slept. And he thought of his failed marriage. Camila had said he didn't know how to love, that he was incapable of emotional connection, that he lived in a bubble of privilege, oblivious to the real suffering of the world. She was right. He had spent 42 years building a financial empire, but he had never built a family. Never connected with something greater than himself. Never used his power for something that truly mattered. Until now. Adrian turned around, a new determination burning in his chest. Clarice, how much does your full treatment cost? Including surgeries, if necessary. The woman blinked, confused. Sir, I'm not asking for money. That's not why. How much? Lorena answered, her voice trembling. The doctor said that with full treatment, including the experimental surgery, she would have an 80% chance of survival. But it costs 150,000 reis. It's impossible. Adrian picked up his phone. Nothing is impossible. It's just a matter of priorities. He called his personal lawyer. Thomas, I need you to handle 3 things today. First, I want to pay for a full cancer treatment for a patient. I'll send you the details. Second, I need to buy a house. Something in a safe neighborhood, 3 bedrooms, a yard. Budget up to 2 million. Third, I want to sue a property owner named Amanda Ferreira for harassment. On the other end of the line, Thomas tried to process the information. Adrian, are you okay? This is very sudden. I've never been better. I want everything resolved by Friday. 3 days. He hung up and looked at Lorena and Clarice, who were staring at him as if he had lost his mind. You two are not going through this alone. Not anymore. The next 2 days were a whirlwind. Adrian canceled all meetings and devoted every minute to executing his plan. But there was one problem he hadn't anticipated. Lorena was resisting. Mr. Whitmore, I can't accept this. It's charity. It's humiliating. She was in his office, holding Isabella in her arms, eyes red but posture firm. It's not charity. It's justice. Justice would be me earning a decent salary. Justice would be my mother having access to quality public health care. Justice would be Isabella's father paying child support. Lorena shook her head. You're trying to fix a broken system with your money. But what then? And what happens when you get tired of us? Her words hit Adrian like arrows. She was right. He was acting on impulse, driven by emotion, without thinking about the long-term consequences. And worse, without asking what they truly wanted. I'm sorry. He sat down, rubbing his face with his hands. You're right. I was being arrogant. Acting as if money could solve everything. Lorena sighed and sat down too, adjusting Isabella, who was beginning to get fussy. I'm not saying I don't need help. I'm saying I need dignity along with that help. I need to work. Earn my living. I don't want to be a charity project. Then help me understand. What do you want? For the first time in 3 years, Lorena really looked at Adrian. Not as a boss, but as a human being. I want my mother to get the treatment. I want to live in a safe place. I want to raise my daughter with dignity. But I want it through my own effort, not handouts. Adrian thought for a moment. Then an idea began to form. And if it wasn't a handout? What if it was an investment? What do you mean? You're smart, Lorena. In these 3 years, I've seen how you manage this house. Perfect organization, maximum efficiency, attention to detail. You have skills that many companies would pay dearly for. Lorena frowned, suspicious. Where are you going with this? I'm launching a new social project in my company. Professional training for women in vulnerable situations. I need someone to coordinate it. Someone who understands the reality of these women because they've lived it. Mr. Whitmore. The salary is 12,000 reis per month. With full benefits, health plan for you, your mother, and Isabella, meal allowance, daycare at the company. Adrian leaned forward. It's not charity. It's a real job. A job you are more qualified to do than any MBA executive I could hire. Tears ran down Lorena's face. But this time, they weren't tears of despair. They were something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Why are you doing this? Adrian stayed silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was loaded with brutal honesty. Because my marriage ended 2 years ago. Camila left me because I was incapable of connecting emotionally with anything. She was right. I built an empire, but I live in a golden cage. Alone. Empty. He looked at Isabella, who slept peacefully. You're about to lose your daughter for lack of money. I lost the chance to be a father because of too much. We're both being destroyed by opposite extremes of the same injustice. Lorena wiped her tears. And you think that by saving me, you'll save yourself too? I don't know. But I know that if I don't try, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have made a difference. If I could have used this damn money for something that truly mattered. The silence between them was different now. It was no longer the silence between boss and employee. It was the silence between two broken people, trying to rebuild. All right. Lorena finally said. But on one condition. What? You're going to be Isabella's godfather. Adrian felt something break inside his chest. Not from pain. From something like healing. It would be an honor. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Thomas was doing his part. He had found the perfect house. 3 bedrooms, yard, safe neighborhood, close to a hospital. 2 days of aggressive negotiation, and it was done. But there was a problem. When Thomas tried to contact Amanda Ferreira, the landlord who was evicting Clarice, he discovered something disturbing. The woman wasn't just greedy. She had a history of exploiting vulnerable tenants. She charged outrageous rents to desperate people, knowing they couldn't pay, and then evicted them to sell the property at inflated prices. Clarice was just another victim on a long list. Thomas called Adrian. We have a problem. Amanda Ferreira won't accept a settlement. She wants to evict Clarice by Friday, exactly the day you promised to resolve everything. Why? Because she already has a buyer for the land. A construction company that will demolish the house and build a commercial building. If she doesn't evict by Friday, she loses the deal. Adrian felt his anger boil. How much is she going to make from the sale? 300,000. Offer 400. I'll buy the land before she does. Adrian, are you serious? You're going to spend 400,000 reis just to stop an eviction? No. I'm going to spend 400,000 to prevent this woman from destroying more lives. And then I'll donate the land to an NGO that builds social housing. Thomas laughed on the other end of the line. You've completely lost it. Maybe. Or maybe I've finally seen what really matters. On Wednesday night, Adrian put all the pieces together. Clarice's treatment was scheduled at the best private hospital in the city. The new house was furnished and ready. Lorena's employment contract was printed and signed. And Amanda Ferreira had accepted the offer after tense negotiations. Everything was ready for Friday. But Adrian didn't tell Lorena anything. He wanted it to be a surprise. He wanted to see the moment she realized she wouldn't have to give up her daughter. That her mother would live. That everything would change. He didn't know that Friday would bring an unexpected twist. Because that very night, while Adrian was planning the surprise, Lorena received a call. It was from the adoptive family. They were at the mansion gate. And they wanted to take Isabella that very night. Adrian was in the office when he heard the doorbell. It was 9 o'clock on Thursday night. One day before the final deadline. He went downstairs and found Lorena standing at the entrance, pale as a ghost, holding Isabella so tightly that the baby began to cry. At the door, a middle-aged couple waited. He was tall, wearing glasses, with an impeccable formal suit. She was blonde, with a gentle but determined smile. Beside them stood an older woman holding a folder of documents. Mr. Whitmore, the woman with the folder spoke. I'm Denise Almeida, a social worker. I came to pick up baby Isabella as agreed with the biological mother. The agreement was Friday. Adrian crossed his arms. There was a change of plans. The adoptive parents need to travel abroad early tomorrow. It's tonight or never. Adrian looked at Lorena. She was trembling, silent tears running down her face. Isabella was crying loudly now, sensing her mother's despair. Lorena, do you want to do this? She didn't answer. She only pressed her daughter tighter against her chest. The man from the couple stepped forward, extending his hand. Mr. Whitmore, we understand this is difficult. But we have everything prepared. A beautiful house, a decorated bedroom, private school already arranged for when she grows up. Isabella will have everything she deserves. Everything except her mother. Adrian did not shake the outstretched hand. The blonde woman tried a gentler approach. We know the biological mother loves the baby. That's why she's doing this. Because she knows she can't offer the future Isabella deserves. We're here to honor that sacrifice. Sacrifice. Adrian felt anger rising. You call sacrifice what is actually a perverse system that forces poor mothers to give up their children because they can't pay rent? Denise, the social worker, raised her hand. Mr. Whitmore, with all due respect, your opinion doesn't matter here. The mother signed the preliminary papers. She has until midnight to withdraw, but if she doesn't, temporary custody passes to the couple. And by law, they can take the child tonight to begin the adaptation period. Adrian turned to Lorena. Look at me. Do you want to give Isabella away? Lorena finally spoke, her voice broken. I don't want to. But look at them. Look at what they can give her. Look at me. What do I have? Debts. A dying mother. No future. You have love. You have courage. You have strength. Adrian stepped closer. And you have something they will never have. You are her mother. Love doesn't pay for cancer treatment. Love doesn't pay for food. But I do. The silence that followed was absolute. Everyone looked at Adrian. He took a deep breath and made the most important decision of his life. Denise, how much time does Lorena have to officially withdraw? Until midnight tonight. Adrian looked at his watch. It was 9:15. Lorena, trust me. Just 2 more hours and 45 minutes. Mr. Whitmore, what are you doing? The social worker frowned. I'm stopping an injustice. He picked up his phone and called Thomas. I need you here. Now. With all the documents we prepared. 20 minutes later, Thomas arrived with a leather briefcase. Adrian opened it on the dining room table, in front of everyone. Lorena, sign here. He pointed to an employment contract. What is this? Your new job. Social Inclusion Coordinator at my company. Monthly salary, 12,000 reais. Full benefits, including family health insurance. Lorena's hands trembled as she held the pen. She signed. Adrian pulled out another document. Deed to a house. 3 bedrooms, a yard, a safe neighborhood. Transferred to the name of Clarice, your mother. No rent, no debt. It's hers. Lorena covered her mouth with her hand, sobbing. How, when? And lastly, Adrian pulled out a third paper. Medical authorization and proof of full payment for Clarice's cancer treatment. Experimental surgery, chemotherapy, everything. Scheduled to begin on Monday. Lorena fell to her knees, still holding Isabella. Her entire body shook with uncontrollable sobs. The adoptive couple looked at Denise, who seemed stunned. Does this change anything legally? The blonde woman asked, her voice tense. Denise flipped through the documents, checking each one. It changes everything. The main justification for the adoption was socio-economic vulnerability. If the mother now has formal employment, guaranteed housing, and resources to care for the child, she looked at Lorena. Do you want to withdraw from the adoption? Lorena raised her tear-soaked face. Yes. I want my daughter. I always wanted my daughter. Denise stamped a document. Then the process is cancelled. Isabella remains with the biological mother. The blonde woman began to cry. Not out of anger, but genuine sadness. Her husband hugged her, and they turned to leave. But before leaving, the woman looked at Isabella one last time. Take good care of her. She is special. I know. Lorena kissed her daughter's forehead. I always knew. When the couple left, Denise stayed a moment longer. Mr. Whitmore, what you did was extraordinary. But I need to ask, why? Adrian looked at Lorena and Isabella, now reunited forever. Because I spent 42 years building an empty empire. And today I realize that the only thing that truly matters is using what we have to protect those we love. Or those we could love, if we give ourselves the chance. Denise smiled and left. When they were alone, Lorena stood up, still trembling. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just promise me one thing. Anything. Promise that you'll let Isabella grow up knowing that her mother fought for her. That she didn't give up. That love can, yes, change everything, when it finds the right tools to express itself. Lorena hugged Adrian, Isabella between them. And for the first time in 2 years, since his divorce, Adrian felt something he had forgotten. He felt that he belonged somewhere. That finally, after so long, he had a family. Not the way he imagined, but the way destiny offered. And it was perfect. 3 months later, Adrian parked in front of the house he had bought for Clarice. It was a sunny Saturday, and he was carrying a box of toys for Isabella. It had become part of the routine, visiting the family on weekends, watching Isabella grow, talking to Clarice about life. When he rang the doorbell, Lorena opened. She looked different. Her hair was loose, curly, and shiny. She wore a simple but elegant dress. But the biggest change was in her eyes. The weight of despair was gone. There was light. Godfather is here. She smiled, taking the box from his hands. How is she? Destroying everything in her path. An artist of chaos. Lorena laughed. Come in, my mother is in the living room. Adrian entered and found Clarice sitting on the new sofa, Isabella in her lap. The transformation was remarkable. Clarice had gained weight, her skin had color again, and her eyes shone with life. The treatment was working. The doctors were talking about full remission. Mr. Whitmore. Clarice smiled. Or should I call you compadre now? Clarice, how many times do I need to ask you to call me Adrian? Old habits. She handed Isabella to him. She's been asking for her godfather all morning. Adrian held the baby, who at 8 months was already trying to babble words. She grabbed his finger tightly and smiled, showing the 2 little teeth that had just come in. At that moment, holding the child who had almost been taken from her mother's arms, Adrian felt something deep. It wasn't just satisfaction from helping. It was gratitude. Gratitude for being allowed to be part of these lives. How's work? Clarice asked as Lorena served coffee. Incredible. Lorena sat down. Yesterday we finalized partnerships with 3 new NGOs. We'll train 50 women next quarter. Sewing, computer skills, basic business management. And the best part? 4 of the first 20 graduates have already secured formal employment. I'm thinking of expanding the program. Adrian said, still playing with Isabella. Maybe opening a larger training center. With an integrated daycare, so mothers can study while their children are cared for. That would be wonderful. Lorena looked at him with something like admiration. You know, sometimes I still can't believe all this is real. That 3 months ago, I was about to give up my daughter. The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. Do you regret it? Adrian asked. Considering the adoption? Lorena thought carefully before answering. I don't regret considering it. Because at that moment, with the information and resources I had, it seemed like the only option of true love, giving her what I couldn't. But I regret living in a world where mothers have to make that choice. Where love isn't enough if you don't have money. And now? Clarice asked. What do you feel now? I feel that the world is still unfair. But I feel that for the first time in my life, I have the tools to fight against that injustice. Not just for myself, but for other women. Lorena looked at Adrian. And I feel gratitude. Not for charity, but for the opportunity. For someone having seen my value when I had forgotten I had any. Adrian felt a lump in his throat. He handed Isabella back to Lorena. You know what's funny? I thought I was saving you. But actually, you saved me. How so? Clarice tilted her head. I lived in a golden prison. I had everything, but nothing mattered. I worked 16 hours a day building an empire with no purpose other than growth. I returned to an empty mansion. Slept alone. Woke up alone. And repeated it all the next day. He looked at the 3 generations of women before him. You gave me something money never bought, a reason to wake up in the morning that isn't just to make more money. Lorena wiped a tear. You changed our lives, Adrian. Literally saved us. No. We saved each other. And that's the lesson I learned. No one saves themselves alone. Neither the rich nor the poor. We need each other. I had resources without purpose. You had purpose without resources. Together, we created something neither of us could have done alone. Clarice stood up, with some difficulty but infinitely stronger than 3 months ago. Can I say something? As someone who almost died, who almost saw her daughter lose a baby, who almost watched her family fall apart. She looked at Adrian with deep intensity. The world is full of rich people who use money to accumulate power. But true power is using your resources to give back dignity to those the system has taken it from. You didn't give us charity. You gave us back our humanity. Adrian hugged Clarice, then Lorena, and finally kissed Isabella's forehead. Thank you for letting me be part of your family. It always was part. Lorena smiled. From the moment you decided to listen to my crying instead of pretending you didn't hear. Later, while Adrian drove home, he thought about how much his life had changed. The mansion was still large, but it was no longer empty. He had converted 2 rooms into workspace for the social project. He held weekly meetings there with Lorena and the team. The house had life now. It had purpose. And he had a family. Not traditional. Not the way society expected. But real. True. Built not from blood or documents, but from compassion, respect, and genuine love. That night, before going to sleep, Adrian wrote in his journal something he had never written before. Today was a good day. Not because I made money. Not because I closed deals. But because I saw Isabella take her first steps. Because I saw Clarice laugh. Because I saw Lorena transforming the lives of other women. And I realized that success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in how many lives you touch. How much love you spread. How much injustice you prevent. He closed the journal and smiled. For the first time in 42 years, Adrian Whitmore knew exactly who he was and what he was here for. And that was priceless. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Share in the comments what you thought and which city or country you're watching from. Your interaction helps this message reach more people who need to remember. Compassion transforms the world.